Hey, Bob. Can you hear us?
I can now. How are you?
Oh, look at that. We're good. How are you? Did you have nice
Well,
travels? There you go. So clearly you made it to your home safely for your trips.
Yes, we spent the afternoon. I'm actually at my daughter's school. She had a class today, so
Very nice.
very nice. Yeah,
Good. Okay.
nice to see everybody.
Yes, so does that mean you're in, Oregon or Washington?
No, actually, I'm in Santa Clara.
Ah,
And my daughter's teaching a course at Santa Clara this summer, so as part of our visit, she got me to hook up with you all. So
There you
here we
go.
are.
All right. Well, cool. All right. So I think what we'll do is we're missing a couple of people, but they'll probably, I think Amanda and Jeremy are both going to jump in remotely. And do we have, who am I missing? Jeremy and Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, and Bob's on the TV. I wasn't
Yeah.
counting the TV. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I guess I will call the meeting to order and say that Bob is remote, and then at some point we will probably have two more remote when we get there. And so what we were going to do tonight is we have two sets of minutes to approve.
yes.
And then we have some nice reserve transfers and appropriations from Nick. And then we thought we would have a little conversation about how we as a warrant committee want to kind of deal with the special town meeting coming up. And then we can exit stage right. Does that work? Okay. And then actually we'll do a little round. Once everybody on the committee's in, we'll do a little round table to introduce ourselves to our new members, Jill and Steve. And go from there. Sound good? Okay. All right, so we had the very exciting minutes from May 17th that said we stood up in front of town meeting and approved the
We
minutes from last
huddled,
week.
that's
We
right.
huddled for 5 minutes and then we got back out, yes. Does anybody have any questions or comments to those minutes? Okay, is there a motion?
I move that the minutes of May 17th, 2021 be approved as presented.
Second.
Okay, all right. Bob, do you want to vote first?
Yes.
All right, Newton?
Yes.
I'll be a yes.
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Yes. And then I'll
We
just,
abstain.
yeah, you guys abstain, yeah, okay. All right, and then there were the minutes from June 21st, from the last meeting that I pretended to be Newton and I took the minutes for.
Yeah. You did well.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay, is there a motion?
I move to accept the minutes of June 21st.
Okay.
I second.
All right, and so Bob will let you vote first again?
Yes.
Okay, Newton?
Yes.
I'll be a yes.
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 Okay. And you'll both abstain again? Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Nick, do you want to do the three transfers we have?
Sure. There are three transfers that were sent out to the committee. The first is an appropriation transfer to move funds from animal control officer salaries to the police salaries line. The salaries for the police were scheduled to come in under budget, but due to a retirement at the end of the fiscal year, that employee got a retirement payout for vacation and sick time, which meant we are seeking a transfer in the amount of $3,797.73 from animal control salaries to police salaries.
That's a budget transfer?
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
Why was there excess salary in animal control?
So animal control has one salaried employee and two part-time employees on an as-needed basis, and this year they had an excess of about $5,000, which is about
So
typical.
open position then, essentially?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to take 2 steps back? Do you guys know what we're doing, or shall we?
Yes, sorry, I should have quickly led with that. So under municipal finance law, the town departments can only spend the amount in their operations budget that was approved at town meeting and the amount in their salary budget that was approved at town meeting. You cannot move money from one account to another without the approval of the finance committee, which in Medfield is the warrant committee. So in this case, police salaries are going to run over. So we're going to take a transfer from animal control, which is under the police department and under the chief, and to cover the excess, the extra spending in the police salaries due to the lower than expected spending in the animal control officer salaries. Sure.
Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Are we voting on this?
I think we'll
or-
vote on each of them individually, I
Yes.
think. Makes sense?
Okay, yeah.
Probably cleaner. So does anybody have any questions on this one, or if we could make a motion on this one before?
Questions?
Okay. All right, then I will move that we approve the transfer of $3,797.73 from ACO salaries to police salaries. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Jill? Yes. Newton?
Yes.
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 Okay, moving on. Approved.
All right, the next transfer is a reserve fund transfer. So in addition to appropriating the town departmental budgets every year at town meeting, we also appropriate $150,000 into what is termed the reserve fund. That fund is available to be spent for unforeseen expenses, unanticipated expenses for town departments. The school budget is set at the amount authorized at town meeting. The reserve fund cannot be used to offset any additional school expenses. So in this case, we are seeking a reserve fund transfer in the amount of $7,781.12 to go to the Medicare insurance line. The town, as with any employer, matches the deduction on all employee paychecks of 1.45% for Medicare insurance. Typically, we have a transfer at the end of the year to cover a little bit of a higher than anticipated amount in the Medicare insurance. It's just tough to truly get a nailed down estimate as what our liability will be in that account. Each year we've been a little bit better. This is the lowest one we've requested in a few years now. So the reserve fund transfer is $7,781.12 from the reserve fund to the Medicare insurance account.
So Nick, just to clarify, that wasn't so much an issue of, or was it an issue of rate, or was it volume, so to speak, people?
It's a little bit of everything. I think this year where there was some additional personnel hired for COVID-related expenses, those salaries would be added to what we are charging the 1.45%
Okay.
deduction to.
Yep.
And then each year, obviously, there are COLA increases and then other step and lane increases for teachers, as well as step increases for employees and promotions throughout the year for various departments.
Any other questions?
Is this the only amount that's getting taken out of the reserve fund?
So I have the
There's another-
breakdown this year. We've requested a few others. There was about a $13,000 increase for the town clerk. We had a significant number of expenses this year with the presidential election and vote by mail that was required this year that wasn't fully anticipated. We had about a $10,000 transfer into the conservation department. That was due to a retirement of a new employee and a retirement of a longtime employee. And we also brought on a new employee and had them overlap for a bit. So there was a little bit higher than usual cost there. The other one was for printing for the town report and for town meeting costs, which again were, just because of all the COVID precautions we had to take, were a little bit higher than we had expected. So there have been 3 reserve fund transfers approved, the 3 that I just mentioned, that totaled $29,554. And then we have 2 tonight.
Okay, great.
So we'll probably be a turn back for some of the reserve fund at the end of this. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Okay, then I guess I will move that we do $7,781.12 from the reserve fund for Medicare insurance. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jill? Yes. Newton?
Yes.
All right, I'll be a yes.
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 Okay, all right, so that passes. So last reserve fund transfer.
The last transfer we are requesting is $4,500, again from the reserve fund, and this would go to the town council budget account. We retain outside town counsel for basically three needs. The first is labor counsel for personnel issues and for working on our union contracts. The second is for affordable housing issues. We had retained an attorney to help us on some affordable housing issues throughout the year. And then we have an environmental attorney that we use for both Conservation Commission and as well as various environmental issues. This year we expect to need about $4,500 extra in the budget to cover some final costs that we expect through the year. We did negotiate 2 union contracts this year, and we closed out a couple environmental issues. So there was higher than anticipated need for our outside counsel.
So at year end, you would have had an encumbrance, and this is gonna extend, so when you get the final bill in, this exceeds
Right.
the encumbrance.
Correct.
So I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust, and I don't remember any legal consultation or support since I've been on it, except for with regard to how bond proceeds could be used in some creative ways to support affordable housing. Was there any affordable housing issues that legal fees were paid to or paid for this year?
There was the town hired an attorney to assist us in navigating some issues related to 40B affordable units in an 40B development here in town.
Yes, so that was a Hospital Road project, yes. And that led to a payment of some sort?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That one I know of, yes, thank you.
Sure. And the bond counsel one, so correct, we did utilize bond counsel for some outside assistance. The way the bond counsel works is we wouldn't pay it out of this account. It will be rolled into our borrowing costs when we issue the debt for the water treatment plant project. So we'll accrue costs until we issue debt. They'll roll into the borrowing costs for that project.
Okay. Even though it's not a borrowing for affordable housing?
Well, that bond is still outstanding, so that one will be held until and if that affordable housing bond does get issued by the town.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So is the total bill then, or expense, $8,539?
That's about where we expect things to land. We have an outstanding bill of about $7,000 that we are hoping will be the end. We've reached out just to confirm that there are no outstanding bills.
Okay.
So the transfer is a little bit extra to cover us, but we anticipate the final amount be closer to $7,000, $7,500 or so. So we should have another
Another turnback.
$1,000.
Another turbo?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay, so I guess I will move that we approve $4,500 from the reserve fund to town council consulting and legal fees. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay. All right, Bob, you're on.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Okay, Newton?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'll
So,
just, Sharon, if I could, so
You can.
the total reserve fund transfers will be $41,835. Last year, we had a little bit less than in past years, which was $23,000 in the reserve fund. The prior 3 years were $137,000, $133,000, $127,000. So last 2 years, we've been fortunate not to have too many crazy expenses.
Did you just call 911 on
So
your
what
phone?
would be left what's left in the reserve
I
fund?
was calling.
There will be about $110,000 that will close out to this year's free cash.
That would be
Beautiful,
nice. Okay,
beautiful.
good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. Okay, so, that's our official business. However, I wanted to take a few minutes, first to welcome Steve and Jill, and thank you guys for joining our motley crew of, Warrant Committee. And so I wanted to do a couple things. One was, I guess, give you guys a chance if you want to ask us any questions, or if you just want to like sit back and relax and see how the party goes. That's good too. And I was waiting to kind of go around to just have everybody introduce themselves until Jeremy and Amanda jumped in, but I haven't seen them jump in yet. So maybe we'll just do that real quick. And then I wanted to take a minute to talk about kind of like the upcoming special town meeting and the elementary school project. And Bob has some ideas of what we could do, and we can maybe talk about that for a little bit before we all head out. So, I guess maybe we'll just go around. I'll just start. So I'm Sharon Tatro. I've been on this committee. I'm not really sure how long. I suppose this is probably going to be year 7. I'm not really sure. But, and so I've been the chair for the last year. I have lived in town since, gosh, I don't know, 2003 or 4. And I own a business down the street in Millis. So, and my husband's on the Park and Rec Commission. So I've kind of been around the block, but, I've enjoyed doing this and getting to know people, but welcome. And if you have any questions, I unfortunately probably know the answer, so.
So that said, you are involved, she has been very closely involved in, and was appointed by our prior chair as the,
Call me the director of numbers.
the director of numbers, that's right. So she was very intimately involved with Nick and Christine and the rest of the finance team here in the town hall to keep us informed. Yeah, and managing and negotiating the numbers. Yeah, very much so.
And has done a great job.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, everybody. I didn't even bring you
But-
chocolate.
Yeah, no chocolate
No
tonight.
chocolate tonight. I know, I was a little upset with myself that I didn't have the chocolate, but, all right, do you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Newton Thompson. I am the other half of Kathy Thompson. And I don't know if you have little kids going through Dale Street School
Yes.
and, or the district generally. She's the nurse leader and, yeah.
She's been here a long time.
Yeah, she has 25 years in that role. And she was just on a Medfield Cares about suicide prevention call. She was on Board of Health yesterday. So she's spread pretty thin. But anyway, so I thought I should, pick up some slack on my end and join the Warrant Committee, or support the town, and join the Warrant Committee about 3 years ago. So I guess I'm coming up onto my 3rd year anniversary very shortly.
I'm Ed Vazala. I've been in town for about 40 years, 1980.
Oh, boy.
41, yeah. I guess I'm an old timer here. I had three kids that went through the public school system here, and all did great system. And as Sharon said earlier, when I came on board a year and a half ago, I was assigned to the schools, since I've had some experience in that. My last 10 years working were in the Mansfield school system, so it made sense that I got involved with the schools. I've enjoyed it very much. I've learned a lot and still got a tremendous amount to learn from Nick and Christine and everyone. And Nick has done just a fabulous job of educating me. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Christine Barton. I've been in town since 2008, so
13?
13 years. I've been on the warrant committee for about 3 years now, and I am still learning a lot. I'm a land use and permitting attorney, so finances are not my forte, but I really enjoy working with this group. It's a lot of smart people, and everyone's friendly and welcoming, and there's no stupid questions. So, whatever questions you have, just ask, and it's just open discussion, open dialogue, and it's a good group.
It's been a good group, yes. Bob, do you want to say something?
Always, right?
This is a Pope Catholic.
Right.
So, Bob Sliney, also 3 years in the Warrant Committee. We've been a resident since about 28 years. 3 of my children did go. My 3 children went through the Medfield school system, and this has been as I said, a very enlightening experience with the Warrant Committee. We've had some very interesting times with between the pandemic, and then we had the state hospital vote, and now the schools, in addition to just challenges of trying to find the right balance between costs and services to the town with the pressure that is on us from a revenue perspective. And I would second all the comments, particularly those for Sharon. She's done a great job leading this team, and and frankly, she's shown a lot of leadership before she was the chairperson, so we're really benefiting from that. And the work that Nick and Christine have done has been terrific, very supportive and very open. Done a great job, very professional job in presenting information and data to us. And as I said, working with all the town committees and managers has been an opportunity to really appreciate the town of Medfield. And I think that each one, you know, Christine said that she doesn't know finances, but she certainly knows zoning, and that's always been a big issue, and a lot of guidance from that. Ed's done a great job with the schools, has given us some input, and I think the progress made on the schools is not in small part. You know, Sharon's done a great job with it, but Ed bringing that expertise and background has been really helpful for us. And Newton with his finance background. So now we have a bevy of CPAs in our midst here with Steve, I know, in his background. So it's not the most important thing, I think, is and what I've really seen from the participation of all the people, past and present, that have been with us for the last 3 years is just a real openness and a commitment to impartiality. It's really impressive to see the people have basically left their egos at the door and brought their expertise and judgment, and the interest is always in the best interest of the town. So it's been a pleasure, with a challenge, but it's certainly a pleasure. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
All right, Jill.
So Jill Rafter, been in town going on 12 years now. I have 2 small children that will be going through the schools in town, kindergarten next year. So interested to learn more about the community that we live in, and was interested in doing something to support the town, which is why I sought out volunteering for this committee. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of questions, and I'm just looking forward to learning a lot from you guys and seeing where I can help.
And Needham Bank doesn't keep you busy enough, does it?
It certainly does, yeah, it does. I should mention I'm in banking, but not on the finance side of banking. I run our project management group, so I do the strategic projects for the bank.
Are you here in town at the Needham branch in town or another?
Out of the headquarters in Needham.
Oh, okay.
Remote now, but and then eventually I think hybrid again. I'm not sure. I'm sure everyone's still working all that out. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Steve Callahan. I've lived in town for, I guess, 27 years. Both my 2 children have gone through the school system here. And I recently just retired last September after 40 years in public accounting.
Congratulations.
So I've needed something to do, as my wife reminds me every day.
You need a year end.
Yeah. Anyway.
You've come to the right place.
So I'm looking forward to contributing any way I can and helping out any way I can. So.
Awesome. Good.
Do we want Nick to introduce himself?
Why don't you introduce yourself, Nick? Come on.
He is, wait, I will just say, he will be a key resource for
Yes.
you.
Oh, for sure.
The go-to guy.
You need Nick on speed dial. Or at least speed email.
Sure. Nicholas Milano, I'm the assistant town administrator. I work closely with Christine Sherweiler, the town administrator who couldn't be here tonight. But one of us or both of us and our other finance team staff will attend just about all the meetings, especially as we are involved in budget season. So we're open, our doors are always open. Give us a call, come and stop in if you have any questions. Happy to help you as you kind of get acclimated to the group. And it's good timing because we're in a little bit of a quieter time, budgetary-wise, for the next several months before we kickstart the fiscal 23 budget process. We'll be starting the capital budget process, hopefully, next month, and wrap that up by the end of September. So we kind of know where we are in capital as we transition into the operating budget as well. So we're available. We I don't know, it's been fun working with all of them, so I'm sure we'll add you two to the group.
Thank you.
So I just want to comment, I didn't send you an email and follow on like the other folks did, but there are two, in addition to a resource like Nick, there are a couple of resources that I thought would be helpful to you. You may already know this, maybe it's already been communicated to you by this, but whenever I would have a question to, for either Nick or Christine, I'd always try to, at least I got it in the practice of going to the state site, DLS, the Division of Local Services. If you want to learn about free cash or enterprise funds or almost any topic, go to dls.com or .gov or something like that. We can give you the site. The other one is this municipal committee handbook written for us. And it's a little dated October 2017, but it still has the basic fundamentals on everything from soup to nuts. It's from the Mass Municipal Association, I think. And they do have seminars. I went to a sort of capstone or general review one year, but I got this book. You can get it. It's a Kindle book, and highly recommend it. It'll get you the ABCs, and then you can run with Nick and DLS and the rest, and Bob and Sharon, and talk about things much more esoteric.
Great, thank you.
Okay. You didn't like that joke?
I did. Actually, Newton, I was thinking that because you are so accurate in keeping minutes, that you could just go over with Steve and Jill the entirety of Mike Sullivan's presentation from 3 years ago.
No. That's one of my comments, by the way. But anyway, we'll come back to that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see Jeremy's popped in, but but Jeremy might still be doing double duty because he was on another Zoom too. But when he pops in, we can have him introduce himself too. But so the last kind of thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Bob, pretty soon. But Bob and I have we shared a bagel and a yogurt at Blue Moon last Thursday, just to talk a little bit about how we might want to go about handling the special town meeting. Because normally what we do is we wait till we get the warrant articles, and then we just vote. We discuss, we vote, we move on. But since we all have a good idea of what the warrant article is that's coming, and it's really just about one thing, and there's so much discussion about that going on, that Bob and I were kind of talking about the fact that maybe we want to take a little bit more in depth and maybe a little bit more proactive approach, and maybe change how we go about it, at least for this article. So Bob had an idea that I will say I thought was a good one. So do you want to tell everybody what we talked about, Bob?
Yeah, then I'm going to throw it really quickly back to you again, because your email discussion was, I think, spot on. But just to give a quick background, as quick as I can be, Newton, is that I'm the representative of the Warrant Committee as a non-voting member of the School Building Committee. And so, and I succeeded Sharon, who was the non-voting member from the Warrant Committee prior to her taking on the chairperson role. So, and my role has been to attend the meetings and bring back information to the Warrant Committee over the time as the issues are being discussed. And back in the spring, prior to the town meeting, where we had the citizens petitions articles, we did have a couple of meetings, and at least one which Mike Quinlan, the chairperson of the School Building Committee, came before the Warrant Committee and asked questions, and also had other discussions. So one of the things that came through to me is that, and I suggested to Sharon, was that there are a number of complex issues that are significant to the town, and I felt as though we should be if everyone agrees, to be more proactive in addressing the questions and issues that are coming up on the vote for this elementary school at the Wheelock site, and to provide both a discussion and support for the positions that were taken and being presented to the town as a recommendation from the school building committee, and also to discuss what the implications of those are. Significantly, of course, being we have the finance question: what will be the impact on taxes? A review of the process, etc. But specifically to that Wheelock site as proposed. And as Sharon and I discussed, and Sharon brought up, was that also to discuss amongst the Warrant Committee what the actions will be if the school plan does not pass at the town meeting, and what are the consequences? Not the consequences, but what are the next steps? So anyway, I think Plan A is vote on the school proposal, school building proposal, and to, in the course of our evaluation and analysis, because the Warrant Committee will be taking a position on the article, as we do on all, whether to recommend passage or recommend dismissal. In order for us to do that, I think there's a lot of information that needs to be reviewed, analyzed, and then presented to the Warrant Committee so that we can make that informed judgment prior to going to town meeting. So that was the thought, and Sharon thought that was a good approach, and I think we had a couple of ideas as to how to proceed. But what I did suggest was it would be important to be fact-based in our analysis, and I also suggested that there should be more than just me doing this, not only because of the work that's involved, but primarily because I want to make sure that it's not being skewed in any specific way. I mean, my initial position has been that I was supporting of the proposal to move forward, although we have not voted yet in any form on whether this specific article should be passed, given we don't have the final cost yet and the impact that it has on the town finances. So is that a fair overview?
That's fair, yes. And so I guess I would build on that in that after talking to Bob, like what I'm kind of envisioning is that we could go through a process that Bob has very nicely said that he would lead us through, which is just gathering every single question that's kind of out there. Like we all see like questions being tossed out there on Facebook and at meetings and everything else, and actually getting the answers. But like as he said, fact-based answers. What I would suggest is that we get, in essence, maybe it's a document in the end, maybe it's a massive Q&A document, because if there are questions out there that people are asking and they aren't getting the answers from, then if we can get those answers to people, and if we just come up with a completely fact-based document, I actually would like to table any of our discussions about how any of us are building opinions off of those facts until after we're done with it. Because then that way the document of the facts that we're all basing our opinions on is kind of level set. And I'm never like an advocate that we all need to be unanimous on anything. I think that, disagreement is good and we all should have our own opinions, but on this in particular fact-based thing, I do think we need to be unanimous on it. Like I think that we all need to agree that these are the facts that people should be looking at from so if the question is, let's just say, if someone has a question, and maybe it's really simple, like, what is the MSBA rule on X? And so if that's just from an MSBA document, and then so here's the source document, here's the code section, like that's just a fact, that kind of it is what it is. I don't want this to be a, what do you think about? Because that's not a fact. That's kind of where I'm thinking, so I don't really know what the end product is, because I think it's more than just for us, right? Because we need to know the information in order to be able to make an opinion, but there's clearly a lot of townspeople out there that are asking these questions too. So whether or not that is a document or whether or not it's also some kind of forum that we go through the document, I don't know. I think we kind of see where it goes. But, one thing that Bob had said was, we clearly know who some of the major, I don't know what the right word is, like players in this are, but like clearly there's a lot of people that have vocal opinions. And I think that what Bob is proposing is that he and some others go out and actually, sit down and meet with those people and be like, what are your questions? What are you feeling like you're not getting answered? And kind of go from there. I did whisper this idea to Steve and Jill, because one thing that Bob and I had thought was that it would be great to have some fresh new opinions on this. And neither of them were scared away by the idea initially, so if they're still not scared away, they had said that. So that's the idea. Thoughts?
Couple of thoughts.
Sharon, just to add, the one thing I would add to this, on top of that, is throughout this engagement, there has been an underlying question on the process, and fairness, and whether issues have been discussed in an open manner. And so, and the point that you've made, I think, is really important, that this is a publicly accessible process, that we want participation. And I think that your thoughts on a summary that just puts the facts in the light to which we see it, obviously, because there are different interpretations of what a fact is. But I think in reality, I think we have enough CPAs in this process that can deal with facts. And I think it's really important that we do this in a public manner and give us an opportunity to hear the voices. And I think that your point on getting the input from the rest of the committee, and particularly to address what are the questions that really need to be addressed, because we have time. And I think that the impact of the town on an issue like this, the last school issue was 20 years ago. So this is a really important issue in a current time frame, and again, I think it's important to proceed as you discussed.
Just a couple of thoughts. One, I thought Mike Quinlan and the whole building committee has already laid out a series of questions and factual answers. And I just wonder, are we kind of overstepping our bounds? I absolutely agree that for any financial aspect of this project, be it the impact on taxes or the actual cost of the project or any other financial number that's used, we should be able to audit and understand and say we agree from a financial perspective. But I wonder, are we overstepping our bounds or being duplicative on answering all other questions?
That was my same thought as well.
Yeah.
What was that?
I had the same gut reaction as well, Bob.
Okay, so my thought on that is, yes, Mike and the school building committee have put the facts out as they see it. But I think I kind of see it in the opposite way, because I think we put them in a position that they have to defend themselves. And from the perspective, we in the Warrant Committee have to take a position, whether to support the passage or whether to support dismissal of the passage of the article. And in that context, we made a vote back in the spring that said we do not support the position of the citizens' petition to revisit the decisions that have been made by the school building committee. I think that was the nature of our vote. We voted that the school building committee has made the presentation. We understand where they're coming from, and we believe that the process that they've been engaged in is reliable, and we should continue to proceed. In no way did we make a judgment onto the facts themselves as to whether or not this is the position that the town should make. So I don't think we're overstepping our bounds. I mean, again, everybody has their position, but it seems to me that this is what the responsibility of the Warrant Committee is to review the presentation of the facts and to make that ultimate decision as to whether or not we support it or not. And we should also be in a position to say what the consequences of that decision are. If we make a decision to say we don't think this is is in the best interest of the town to build a school of this size, of this nature, at this cost, at this particular time, I think we need to be able to articulate what the impact of that decision will be. The impact being a delay in the school, a delay in the move, a delay in costs, etc. So I think I think my observation, my position is it's not sufficient for us to look at, do we support the school building committee in totality or not? I think what we're doing is, and you used the term audited, I think it's basically, in some respects, it is an audit. And so that we can come back and say yes, because this is it's going to be based on facts, but at the end of the day, it's going to be judgment too, right? That, yeah, the facts are such, but can the town, one of the things that came up in the public forum is, can the town afford this? So I think in the context of looking at a school building project, and what we know as we're members of the Warrant Committee, and knowing that we have to deliver a budget annually, can the town afford this? I think that's a fact that's an issue that the school building committee doesn't deal with. If they deal with this with the responsibility to make a recommendation to the town for a school, bring it to 4 to 5, etc. But we in the Warrant Committee have a broader context. We need to take that recommendation and look at it in the totality. Nick mentioned capital budgets. We have knowledge of, we should, and I know we do, and we do it in our analysis as we look at the budget annually, it's a series of decisions. And I think that putting the school building committee in the position of taking that position, I think would be outside their responsibility. So I don't think we're usurping responsibility from them. I think we're taking on the responsibilities that we have already.
And I think another question that you would raise, Bob, can we afford to build a new school? But then on the other hand, can we afford not to do it too? Because if we don't do it, then there's more like capital that goes into, the current Dale Street that's in really dire repair, and certain of the other things. So we have to look at both sides as well, to make the big decision.
And I think that, looking back on my experience 20 years ago working with the school project then, and I've seen it this year too, is that, again, kind of response to Newton and Ed's observations, and I fully understand what you're coming from, but I do think we put these committees in really difficult situations where they have to defend issues outside of the parameters of their responsibility. So, yeah, we made one step and we said, this is a very professional and a very talented group of people who have made the decision based upon the best interests of the town for a project. And now our job, in my view, and this is what I talked with Sharon about, is as a warrant committee, now we need to put that in the context of the budget and alternatives. And I don't think that fits into the purview of the school building committee.
I hear what you're saying. And I'm thinking, okay, if you could go through all of the outstanding questions and all of the statements of fact that the building committee has already addressed, I think it would be very helpful to the public and ratify their positions if we could make some type of omnibus statement with respect to each of the individual points that are the salient points, the big points that people have been questioning. That way, in addition to some more detail on the numbers, I hear what you're saying, Bob, and I think that would be good, but that's where I'm coming from right now. Some type of omnibus statement.
Yeah.
Plus all of the financials.
And I also think, like, I think one of the biggest questions that's out there that everybody keeps saying over and over again that they don't get answers on is, well, okay, so if the school is at Wheelock, what are we gonna do with Dale? And what is that gonna cost? And what is it, like, what are the options? And then there's the flip side. So if we don't do that, then if we don't do that, then what is the plan? Like, how do we still get something built at Dale within a reasonable amount of time? And I don't think we have answers to any of those questions. I think that some of those answers can be gotten, but they're outside of the purview of the SBC, which is kind of what Mike says kind of over and over again. And I get that, but they're not outside of the purview of the Permanent Building Committee. They're not outside of the purview of the Master Planning Committee. They're not outside of the purview of Park and Rec because they know what they want to do. So someone, and maybe that's us, has to take the time to get the answers from those places and put them all into one place, because the school building committee they have their charter. They're going along with what they're doing.
No, it makes good
But
point.
there are questions that people are asking that they aren't getting the answers to, which, I mean, I know, like, if you just look at our 5-year capital plan, there's a dollar amount in there for a Park and Rec school in a few years, and there's a dollar amount in there, but the general townspeople aren't looking at that plan. Like, I know that it's in that plan because I'm on that committee, but the reality is that I also know that, I think that Park and Rec has more information from their consultants because they've been dealing with this, but like none of that's kind of coming out and being put together. So it is also taking those questions that aren't in that document and gathering the info and consolidating it in a place that is better accessible to people.
And from a fairness point of view, I think there's a lot of value to the town to do that. And I could see warrant committee being sort of that integrator of those questions and maybe not the originator of answers, but the collector of responses from those parties, as you just said.
Right.
I don't see us doing the work of the school building committee that's already addressed some of the basic questions.
I'm not going to go
of the
call a
school.
contractor
No,
on how much it's going to
no.
cost to build a school. I'm
We,
going to
we,
go
would-
with that.
we,
Whatever they give me.
we wouldn't be at that granular level.
No.
But the town is asking certain questions, and they've already addressed some of those. And I think, to Ed's question, we wouldn't replicate that, but we take that as part of our fairness assembly of pros and cons and ensure that everything had I don't know if this is a word, vettable response.
Right. Kind of goes back to what Christine said earlier. No question is a stupid question, right? So every single question should be answered.
Yeah,
Now,
I
I don't,
totally agree.
and I have no idea if we want to make this, like, we could go all the way down the road of like a massive can of worms where like we could literally make a Survey Monkey that has one question that says enter your questions here. Well, that could be entertaining. But I don't know. But I mean, if people know that we're doing this, they'll get us their questions. And we
Yes.
can obviously see the questions. I mean, a lot of them have come over and over, but I think that that's part of what Bob's idea was that finding a time to sit down with, we can go back to Jerry and Chris Potts, who had come to one of our meetings, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman that came with them to talk about one of the citizens petitions, but there are lots of people out there, and all we have to do is turn on Concerned Citizens, and we can get names of at least 20 people we should be talking to.
Right.
To get their questions. And then I think, by actively engaging everybody that has a question, that they can A, feel like their questions have been heard, and B, we can maybe try to get some answers. Because my real fear about this is that if everyone has so much built up, I don't know the right thing to vote on because I don't have the answers to my questions. If we walk into town meeting like that, nothing's gonna pass. I don't think that there's 2/3 of the people that are going to. I don't know, but I think that if we can make an effort to at least have people not walk in saying I didn't get my question answered, that at least that's not the reason why they voted
Yeah.
against something. They can vote for or against it for whatever reason they want. I just don't want the reason to be that someone made their decision was because they didn't have a piece of information.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and I think the term that you use, Newton, is what I had in my mind, an integrator. And Ed, this would be taking information and facts that are there right now. It would in no way be we're not going to make a judgment on whether, on the school building committee's, merits of what they propose. What they propose will be what they propose. And we just want to make sure that the questions that encircle that are addressed. And that's why I like the term integrator, because, we should talk to the water, and department, because of different questions about, impact on water and quality of water if a school was at that site. That's a fact. That's a fact that can be addressed and can be supported and can be answered, and doesn't need to be conjecture. And again, I think part of it is, in my mind, a lot of people, and this is all over the place in the political spectrum, but people don't trust process. And I think that if we can in some way make this a fair process of reviewing the facts, I think Scott McDermott, referred to us as like a congressional committee that presents facts to the legislature to vote on, and that's what the legislative body of a town meeting is. So I see it as just being able to make sure the term was audit or integrate and address the kinds of questions that people have so that they can make a fair assessment of whether or not they agree with the up and down. I mean, everybody's going to have their chance to vote. We can only present the facts on this is what the cost is, this is what the outlying cost will be going forward, this is what the impact of your taxes will be. We're not gonna be able to manipulate that. We don't want to change it. We're just gonna say this is what it is, and then this is where you go from that, and then you make a vote. So whether it's integrator or auditor or just developing facts and presenting it to the voting town meeting, that's my perspective.
So we better get going.
As soon as he gets back from vacation.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other comments or questions, or?
No, I mean, I guess, I'm new to the
Right.
committee, so obviously, but my understanding of sort of not the charter of or the mission of this committee is that we're here for the residents, right? And to provide sort of an objective, you know, an objective review of our warrant articles, and to do our job to sort of sort through some of these questions and provide that information back to residents with a recommendation at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it sounds logical to me that in order to do that, you have to go through a process to make sure that you've gotten all the facts and details down right, in an objective way somehow, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm new, so you
I
gotta tell
think
me
you
if I'm off
got,
base.
spot
I
on.
think you got it. I think you got it. This is just, I hate to say it, but it's way more proactive than we've ever been before.
Yes.
I see.
I think the
Well,
topic
I
is just
think,
so
you know,
divisive, you know,
Steve,
I feel like at
you're-
town meeting, it was so divisive with
Yeah.
like, you felt like one side against the other side, and then all the signs around town that and I know that people feel that there's not enough, like, of their questions being answered, so if we could facilitate in that manner, I think that would be really helpful for everyone in town.
Jeremy, do you have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
you say it's, you know, but Steve and Jill, you've been in the town for 13 and 20 years, I think I saw on my note here, that, so you know what you think that the Warrant Committee is doing. So I think it's really valuable for your perspective, because you're into it now, to see that the Warrant Committee does deliver. And that's really one of the things that we benefit, because you'll see, we oftentimes vote unanimously, but we don't always start unanimous. So I think that we get a lot of good input, and I think it's really important to encourage that. You know, so from that perspective, I think it's very valuable.
Great. There's one, I'll just read in the Q&A, because I know everybody doesn't have their computers up, from Chris Potts. It just says, I'm happy to provide the warrant committee with MSBA responses to my public records requests so that you have factual information. It is important that you see some of these key documents. I would also ask the warrant committee to avoid non-financial questions like water, because the answers are not objective in any way. The water issues, for example, are more risk-benefit analysis and scientific assessments, not what the water department thinks. So my response to that, Chris, is I am sure that Bob is going to be reaching out to you to include you in the process. So,
Did you want to get any comments from Jeremy?
yeah, Jeremy, do you want to? Are you just having fun in La La Land, or do you want to?
Sorry for my tardiness.
That's okay.
And, welcome to the new members. But I really appreciated, Sharon, your comments about some of the answers that are just outside of the purview of the school building committee. And, that folks and residents certainly want to get those answers. So I think that's a great opportunity for us to help provide those, get those answers from the appropriate folks and have them have the answers out there. So thank you. I've been listening to the discussion and really appreciating it. So, thank you.
Cool. Anybody? Do you want to say anything?
It seems, just joining first meeting, but it seems like the right thing to do to kind of connect the dots. And I think look at it impact-wise on the town, what is it going to impact 5-10 years from now? Kind of dig a little bit into that more than I think what the school building committee has been doing. They've got their project and the scope to it, but we can connect those dots for folks. I think that would be helpful.
Was there, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you've already, visited this question, but was there some guidelines provided to the SBC when they embarked on this project to sort of say, well, we're gonna do something bigger than a bread box, but smaller than a barn? Like, did they give them some metrics to say, build something, within these
I would say
ranges?
yes. There are metrics, and I think, and I don't know, Bob, if you remember this better than me, but it's basically, this is kind of where the discussion of enrollment numbers comes up. I think a lot is because when the MSBA approves a project, they say you should build a school in order to hold X amount of people, right? But they're using that X amount of people over, from these enrollment numbers, that lots of questions about the enrollment numbers. But so I think that there is, to a degree, there is that, except for there was, as part of the process, the town was trying to decide, are we going to just build a school that's 4-5, or were we gonna try to do 3-4-5 and move those things where, like, that was certainly allowed as part of the process, but,
I meant more financially, I guess, like, was
I,
it-
honestly, I think you could spend $200 million on a school, and like, I don't think that they necessarily are saying,
they didn't have a lot of guidance in that regard.
your percentage, I think, is based, isn't it based on, Nick, do you remember? It's like based on your town, like not necessarily the size, socioeconomics.
That's your reimbursement rate. That's
Right.
what you're Right.
Right,
Yeah.
and so.
A total gross cost of the
Right, no,
building.
um,
Did they say, don't
would
go
be
over
their
this
I,
amount?
think-
you know, to
yeah, I
be honest, I don't know, but I don't think there is.
I think they start with the classrooms, they extrapolate the student population, which
Yeah.
people have had some objections to, it say it's very, very high.
Yeah.
And it may in fact be a little bit high, but I guess you'd
okay.
rather have something a little bit too big than too small. But that thing, then plus, I'm sure they talked to Superintendent Marsden on the size of the music room, the size of the gym, and other things. Then that would
But
add
nobody,
to
did
the square
anybody-
footage,
did-
but I don't
did-
think they
did
start
you
with a
weigh in
number.
and say, the town just can't afford anything more than.
We have not done that yet. I think that's part of this, like, that's part of what kind of comes forward. So, like, as part of this, if the building that is proposed by the SBC costs X amount, if part of our opinion that we're basing that on is that if you do X amount, that's going to cost each taxpayer this much, and kind of to Jill's point of like, and this is what it's gonna cost down the road, that could be a factor in why you support it or you don't.
Yeah,
and
no, I
I-
was just curious, like
yes.
the history of how.
We have never,
Okay.
so like, we have never as a group ever voted on what we thought about any piece of this. The only piece of this that has ever become in front of us are the citizen
But did the
petitions.
selectmen give them any guidance on, like, they just said, go design
I think
it?
the
Well,
SBC has.
I think,
They have a
I think, just to interject there, the town meeting, and I guess when it voted, as I think it was 2018, was when they voted to appropriate $1 million
Right,
to
Yeah.
do a study
yeah,
and make a proposal for a new 4-5, for a replacement of the Dale Street School.
okay.
That's a wide, parameter. And then the school building committee was formed, and it was deemed appropriate and certainly beneficial for the town to proceed under the guidelines of the MSBA, because it provided a reimbursement of anywhere from, I'll use wide numbers, but from 15 to 25%.
Yeah.
So, but one of the pieces that came up, and we'll do more in this detail, but one of the pieces that came up was the MSBA has process requirements, which the school building committee process is followed. It also has requirements for who participates as the school building committee. And this is generalizing, I'm sure that I'm not gonna get it accurate, there'll be questions about it. But the other piece is that they determine what the enrollment parameters are. And it's based upon their projections of enrollment that they make that dictates the size of the school. And from that, so those are some of the things that will be followed up on. And again, some of it's fact and some of it's, but that's how the school gets to be the size that it is.
Yeah.
Because, and what you'll see is that within the guidelines of the MSBA, there are certain parameters after which they won't reimburse. For example, if you decide to have a cafeteria or a music room bigger than what they think is standard for a music room for a 4th and 5th grade class, then they won't
They won't reimburse it.
reimburse past,
Yeah.
Yeah.
certain amount of square footage.
Yeah,
So like in the case of Medfield, because of our band program is such a huge success in our elementary schools, it'd probably be a little bigger.
Right.
And you know, and maybe they'll make a decision to cut back on another space. So those are the decisions you'll see coming through from the school building committee. But nobody has said, nobody has said, build a school at this dollar amount.
Right.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
it's, you know, it's kind of a process. But you know, we have two people who build schools for a living.
Yeah.
And that's one of the pieces, you know, what is our square footage cost relative to the market?
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions, or have we beat this horse dead?
No, I think you sold me.
You ain't nothing yet.
Right, I know. So it seems.
We are gonna beat this into a mule, I'm sure.
Okay.
It seems like we're gonna have some meetings then. When is the proposed special town
Yeah,
meeting?
has it been
What
set
month?
yet? November? November.
Last I heard, well, so when I mentioned it to Christine last week, I think she had said that I've been telling people November. I think that she kind of feels like maybe like right after Thanksgiving is probably a little bit more realistic. So I don't think we know yet.
Okay.
But I think we have some time.
So
So like,
sometime, yeah.
if we just assume for argument's sake that it's gonna be mid-November, I think that if we shot to have this done by early October, so that way we have some time to digest it ourselves and have our own discussions to be able to vote. The way the special town meeting works, they only have to give the town 14 days notice as to the date of it. I mean, I think that everybody's gonna be watching and, you know of that, but from a notice period standpoint, special town meetings only have to have a 14 days notice, but, I think we've got a few months to try to do this. So I think that the thought is that Bob is gonna enjoy the next 2 weeks with his daughters and maybe come up with some ideas, and then, reach out to Steve and Jill to kind of start to get our hands around this. And then I think that I would say is that I think we all recognize that this is like a huge project, and I don't think any of us are expecting the three of you to do it, and we're all gonna go like lounge on a beach for the next month and a half. So I would say whatever you guys are kind of like coming up with, and if you see that there's like a tangent that you need help with different things, then I think that we kind of, just jump in
all hands on deck.
on little pieces that people need. Kind of like we think about this as a warrant, right? You're gonna come up with 50 questions, and like, do we need to parse some of them out to some of us? So
Do you envision public forums?
in the back
Here.
of my head, I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
That is, our warrant committee meetings are open to the public anyway, but specifically to address.
if we
or
can come
collect-
up with a really good document that I think that we're capable of coming up with, like if we all feel really comfortable that we've really come up with the answers to these things, I kind of see, why not? Why don't we hold a public forum when it's done and just, these were the questions, these are the answers. And it's basically turning the document into a slideshow. I mean, I really don't know. I think we have to cross that bridge once we know what we have.
I think that's a Mark Sorrell question too,
Yeah, I mean,
that whether you do that, whether you can do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that we just kind of see what we come up with.
Yeah.
And, maybe we do a reserve fund
So-
transfer to pay for a
so
document that gets
Sharon,
mailed.
I'd
I
like
don't know.
I'll reach out to Joe and Steve, between, we'll just set some dates that we can meet, but I'd like for the three of us to get together prior to the August 19th town, warrant committee meeting is scheduled, and come back with some ideas, and hopefully in the meantime, anybody, all of you, provide some information or questions you have, or areas of specific concern, so that we can kind of beat the mule again a little bit on the 19th, and maybe have a little bit more, have a more structure to it.
Yeah, or maybe even coming up with some of the questions that are out there so that we can start compiling some of the questions that need answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that, you know, as Steve mentioned, we're providing information to the citizens, so if you're hearing from your neighbors and, you know, from your different sources, what the kind of questions are, and then let's make sure that's what we want to address,
Right.
you know.
Okay. Well, alrighty then. So I guess we'll give it a whirl.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to make your favorite motion from afar?
Well, Sharon, I'm not sure if I just wanted to, I know we're a different body, but you know, we work with the town and we work with the different, you know, managers and administrators. We don't see everybody behind it, but I just wanted to, you know, call attention to the fact of Captain Michael Harmon
thank
passing
you.
away.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I didn't know him personally, but so many people I've talked to have just spoken so highly of him. And, you know, having been the representative that meets with the public safety, you know, I know Chief Carico has done a great job and building a team. And I know that this will probably be you know, not just personally, but professionally be very difficult, a loss for him. So to recognize, you know, what all our town employees and public safety people contribute, but specifically Captain Harmon and his time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
And then, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Okay. We'll go from this side because the Christian.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
And Jeremy.
Yes.
All right. It was nice to see you, Jeremy. Okay.
Good to see you all as well.
All right.
Sorry I was late.
All good. All good. All right. So we'll see everybody in August.
I'm gonna
From
go
there.
get some genuine Mexican food here in the city.
Sounds good.
And according to my daughter, it might even involve some tequila.
Oh.
It's vacation.
All right. Sounds good. All right.
See you.
See you, Bob.
Be well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right.